Computer. Okay, I'm here with the king himself. I'm here with Brandon of Unsigned BC podcast. You also host a radio show. Can you tell me what's the radio show called, and where can we
Also,
hear it?
we're going entirely under the Unsigned BC name
Okay.
because I didn't want to make two separate Instagrams.
Good man. Yeah, I made the mistake. I have a radio show called Outside the Box and a podcast that they all tie in together, and it's incredibly confusing sending emails to people and stuff about it. But
That just means you got a little bit more creativity than me. I know you're in English as well, right? So like
yeah,
you
right.
got you had one more name than I did. I just could only come up with one. But thank you for the introduction. That was really kind of you, actually.
Yeah, of course. The people need to know who they're talking to. I've listened to quite a few like semi amateur like interview podcasts and stuff, and often it's like, okay, who's this guest? I don't know who this is. And
Yeah.
you just jump into it. You don't know who the hell they are. So your podcast essentially you interview and connect with unsigned rappers out of BC, which is something that like we're not known. BC is not known for its hip hop community. I can't name any popular rappers out of BC, like big time rappers out of BC at all.
Yeah. So
Off the top of my
that's
head. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's like maybe Mercules might be one that you know, but
Oh yeah, there's those guys. Yeah. That's
yeah.
not
So
my cup of tea, frankly.
yeah, no, actually, honestly, me neither. I'm actually a sort of a new wave kind of rap guy. So I like the younger kids, these guys that are coming out with this sort of like the cross genre, the emo
People that
rap.
grew up on Future, you know.
Yeah. I just honestly I discovered Future I discovered him like 3 years ago or whatever, and I'm still listening to like Just Like Brothers and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the show is like the idea was, like you said, BC not known for rap, Toronto very known for rap. So I I wanted to kind of like maybe see what we could do because I threw a bachelor party when I got married last year, and I was trying to find a rapper to hire because I know like there's got to be a lot of creatives around, right? Like there's UVic, there's UBC, so there's lots of young people, right? I'm sure people in your classes you run into musicians all the time. So I'm thinking there's like house parties. I'm thinking there's got to be some rappers, and I'm looking on the internet, and I'm having a really hard time finding anybody because all I can come across are like these top 5 big rappers, like Mercules and
Snack the Ripper.
Snack the Ripper, and that's exactly what I came across. Ended up coming across one guy named Boslin, and
I've heard of him.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Yeah. He actually went to UVic as well. And actually, so did I. But yeah, so I actually ended up hiring him, and he actually sort of blew up. But that sort of gave me this idea that wow, I actually had a really hard time finding BC rappers. And after I kind of connected with him, and he kind of I was able to like go through his Instagram and see who he was connected with, and there's like a lot. And
yeah, big time. Once you start, it never. And I was noticing that about your Instagram. I was like, oh, right. Like, my man, you opened the floodgate. Your DMs are going to just be ludicrous because, myself included, my Philip Morris mug here in BC, I'm looking for any excuse to get my hip-hop music out there, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So you only started, it's been about the same time I started this podcast, I guess. So you've been doing it now 16 weeks, 15 weeks, something like that?
We're at so the Instagram page itself just turned 3 months old. I guess that was last week. And the podcast and radio show have been going on for 2 months exactly now. And it was sort of a COVID thing. I went used as a COVID thing too, eh?
Big time, yeah.
Both.
The radio show is a COVID thing too. It's all COVID, but
But you were also an artist before this as well, right?
big time, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm fairly new to the rap scene, right? Like I wasn't really an artist. I'm actually trained as a lawyer. I went to UVic
cool
yeah. It was fun and it sounds cool, but trust me, like I would advise against it. But
what kind of law is your expertise?
I went to UBC Law. I did my law degree there, and then I articled in Richmond. And what I worked there doing less than a year, I worked in commercial law and wills and estates. And so like really honestly, people that can be lawyers, power to them. Really hard job, not for me. So I changed careers, came back to Victoria, hoping to work in the government, but COVID decided to hit right at the same time. So so like I kind of ended up with a lot of
career change.
Yeah.
6+ years of education.
Exactly, right. And you're hoping that many years of education, you're hoping you can land into like a nice cushy government job, not anticipating a worldwide pandemic, right? And I'm sure that sort of
Yeah.
changed your plans too, right?
No, it was pretty chill, honestly. I was pretty stoked.
Oh, I guess you're doing school from home and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And also, it was like I'm a dishwasher, and I was like, I don't have to wash dishes, and the government's gonna pay me for it. That's sick.
Oh,
I
that's
have a
great because
shitty kitchen job. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah, oh, okay. Because like
yeah,
I used to work at a grocery store before I went to when I was at UVic. I worked at a grocery store, and that's what I'm thinking is like those like shitty jobs where you're a frontline worker right now, like that, like good for you for getting out of it, man, because that is
yeah,
tough stuff right now. People are stressed.
yeah. I
People,
got laid off 2 times during the pandemic. So yeah,
yeah, like it's been a rough go, and like shout out to people that are working right now. Shout out to my wife for paying for everything.
yeah. Shout out to your
Yeah,
wife.
yeah, exactly.
I love
But
marriage. I'm for it.
oh, absolutely, I love
Yeah,
love, great
yeah.
stuff.
My man. Yeah.
Actually, but I was wondering if I could ask, maybe ask you a question
Sure.
about sort of the programs.
Yeah.
So you said you've been 16 weeks now. So
Yeah.
so my program is sort of just like hip hop and like interview and new sort of like demo new stuff.
And
Like
you
how?
and you yeah you mix in like you showcase producers, which that's what my favorite thing about your show is. It's
Oh,
like you
thank
very
you.
seamlessly showcase like well because a lot of producers do like the guys I work with don't have Instagram pages. They're just my buddies that make beats. And I'm always like, dude,
Okay.
sell your beats. And they're like, yeah, I don't even want to learn how to do that. They just want to fuck around in Ableton with me, basically, right? And yeah, I think like producers often, like by virtue of what it is, kind of get shot by the wayside, both by the industry and by the type of people that it attracts.
Oh,
You know?
100%. They're behind the scenes, generally more introverted people, less likely to advocate for
Yeah,
themselves.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, so like my show is it's a little different than yours, but like we're sort of both in the starting era here, and I want to know like what is your where are you going with the podcast? Like what is the because I'm really not sure honestly. I've got to this point, and we're like, what do we do now? So like what are you doing now? Like where are you taking your podcast? What's your sort of like what's your end game kind of thing? Because
I just want to talk to people, man, and learn from them I mean, I have a thesis statement if you like that I have written down
yeah
for the podcast if that's what you're asking. Yeah. So
yeah
my
no
idea is
exactly
like I mean during the peak pandemic I spent a lot of time like drinking and losing my mind on YouTube basically, right?
okay
And as I'm sure plenty of people did. And I was just like I ended up getting really into this is very esoteric of what I'm getting at here, but it's I got really into like watching speed runs and like Twitch streamers and shit like that,
yeah
which is not I'm not a huge gamer or anything. It just kind of happened through the virtue of their powerful algorithm. But I got into it and I was like, okay, these people I am putting this much of my like time, which you know time is money theoretically, right, into
yeah
watching this stuff, these Twitch streamers, these speedrunners, whatever, these YouTube compilations of video gamers, and I'm like, you know what, these guys are artists too. And I'm like everything. I want to level the playing field across from painters, jazz musicians, Twitch streamers, rappers, like
okay.
YouTubers, like what you do. Like I want to because I think that because there's so much of this shit put in front of us, and we all collectively spend so much different time giving these people our time of all these different categories of art or whatever you want to call it, that I like, but you know, you're not, most people wouldn't admit that they're like, okay, well, I've spent way more time watching some guy play Zelda than I have thinking about Van Gogh, but they would pretend or convince themselves that Van Gogh was of more value, even though you're spending way more time watching competitive Smash Brothers
That's very much something like
listening
you
to Future or
that's
whatever,
some
right?
university level stuff for sure right
Yeah,
there.
and so I want to level the playing field because it's like it's all art brain shit, right? At its
Absolutely,
core, it's
yeah.
all art brain shit. Some stuff is more inherently more creative. So like making music and painting is inherently more creative than playing a video game that you didn't create. But the content itself and the desire to create it is the same fucking brain function, in my opinion. And I want to have convince people to respect all this shit equally. That's my idea.
Okay, that's really interesting. That's really good to know because mine is sort of like on a totally different sort of dimension in terms of just trying to we're just at our core trying to just index and create community.
Yeah, that's
We
what I
we
liked about it. I just going through it. I'm like, I know that guy, don't know that guy, don't know that guy.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because yeah, so like we're kind of like trying to think like like what else and what are other people doing, right? Like what you're doing is sort of I guess maybe like theoretical and like really sort of
In theory, but in practice, it's just me bullshitting with people.
yeah, and it sounds fun because you get to talk to all different kinds of people too, right?
Yeah.
But it's good to get sort of insight on what people are doing and what the goals are and stuff, because I think I like to sort of incorporate that into our because I don't know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah. Hip hop is a hard one too, man. Like I've been making hip hop music since I was 16, and I've dealt with all sorts of egos. I've had one myself, and it's definitely a difficult, like, it's bravado is what, particularly in like BC, where you're dealing with predominantly like white people, frankly. Like,
Yeah.
um, for the most part, I'm sure that's the case of your show.
Oh yeah,
where
mostly,
where
yeah.
it's like it's persona that we're putting on, and to try and sit down and actually have a conversation with someone, particularly someone who's maybe never done an interview before. I imagine it's pretty difficult to just manage that. you know
Yeah,
like,
it's man, it's really interesting because so like I've come across like so like I like talk to like a lot of people like you that are just like, and you probably have met some of them as well, that
yeah,
are like in university or going to university, and they just sound like another kid that you'd meet in class. You would never know that they rap.
yeah.
Some of
Well,
them
you
have
listen
like
to their
nicer
music and it
shoes.
sounds like Juice World or something, right? And
Yeah,
it's
oh exactly. And that's the wave too. It's Juice World, or it's this sort of new wave stuff, and which I really enjoy. But I've also met people that people who actually have immigrated from very like countries like Guatemala
yeah,
and all these, and lived in places like Winnipeg and been on the streets and done time in jail. So I've met people that have actually sort of lived that life, and I also have met people that do sort of a, not like a front, but like they sort of their music is not like, they'll talk about things that they don't necessarily do in their real life in
yeah.
their music.
That's an
But
interesting question too. What do you think about that?
I
You need
mean,
to be
like,
careful, but I think it's okay. That's what I think.
yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I think some people are definitely putting on an act and do things that, like, I know Eminem didn't do all the shit that he rapped about,
I hope
right?
not.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope not. Yeah. So I mean, like, certainly there's room for creativity, and there's room, but I think everybody's being honest with me about who they actually are in the interview, and that's what it comes down to for
For
me.
sure.
Like, yeah. So like, what we get to the interview, and people will, like, they'll be like, yeah, I grew up here, I did this, this is what the job I work, like yeah, I like I few people have washed dishes, right? Like
Yeah.
people are like honest about it, and that's sort of been one aspect that's really surprised me, is that people from all different walks of life, all ages, from 14 to 35, and they've all sort of really opened up about like being normal people, right? Like, and they
Yeah.
sort of break down once. I think it's an a one-on-one discussion thing. Like, if you're maybe typing DMs, it's
I
less
was gonna
so.
say
But
that
what
the persona ends at the DMs.
yeah, exactly. Like, once you get talking to somebody, like, you talk to them about, they're like, yeah, like, you maybe talk about their insecurities a little bit, or like what their plans are, or what challenges they faced, and they sort of there's no persona that's in the music. People are really tend to be quite genuine, at least the people that I've talked to so far. So that's been really cool for me.
Yeah. It's yeah, you will have an endless stream of people to talk to. I think in BC, I could like send you probably a dozen people that probably aren't even on your radar, that are just people I've worked with that you could talk to.
Oh yeah, no, we're trying to get
Yeah,
everybody. So like, I've got almost 100 on the list, and then like I and there's
yeah. Well,
people.
you have a big following really quick, man, on the Instagram at least.
Yeah, I tapped into a couple people because I never did social media before this year. I'm 29 and I never really did it.
Okay.
And I don't have Facebook or anything. And but I asked some people, like, how does this work? How do you get followers? How do you make posts that look nice? And I did a little bit of research, like
Yeah,
the
that's sick.
yeah, like, I just asked. Honestly, the best way to do it is ask people that know. This is what, honestly, Donald Trump could have ran a decent presidency over 4 years. He's an idiot, a terrible human being, but he could have just surrounded himself with people that knew what they were doing. Like, that's what I'm just asking people, like, what do you
100%.
do? Like, to be a good leader, that's all you have to do, is find people that know what they're doing. And that's sort of, it's kind of a cop out, but I mean, like, that's, or Google it. But I asked somebody, how do
But
you
I
do
don't know,
it?
if you try it and then you feel it doesn't work, then you now know that you're like, well, that was a bad piece of advice
Yeah. Oh,
because you
exactly.
tried
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like,
So what was I guess we skipped the genesis of this thing. Sorry, I cut you off for the You were talking the pandemic. You stopped being a lawyer, and then sorry, I wanted to get the whole details there.
Oh yeah. So basically what happened was um I stopped being a lawyer. It was really stressful stuff. Like I had like mental health stuff and substance stuff, and I basically, like you, like the drinking, I was blacked out for a good
Yeah.
portion of, I think probably 3 months. I probably don't remember. And then I realized, like I'm sort of sinking into a sort of a depression, and I wanted to. Because as an introverted person, as somebody with anxiety, like it was easy during the lockdown to sort of put yourself into just your house by yourself, watch YouTube or whatever, and not interact with people. And that's like really not good for being depressed, right? You get really
Was it
lonely.
just you and your wife?
Me and my wife, but my wife also works as a nurse, right? So she's gone 4 days out of every 8 for 12 hours. So I'm by myself, and I got really bored, really sort of depressed, and I wanted to give back to sort of this community, and I realized there was an absence of, like I said, the story about trying to find Boslin. There's sort of an absence of promotional avenues and indexing in terms of BC hip hop. So I thought, there's something I can do. There's something and why not raise a bit of money for charity? So we made it for charity, just something to make me feel, just make yourself feel a bit better or something, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good move.
Yeah, and also honestly, I think making it to raise money for charity, like it's more the idea because we've raised $100, which is great. It's not really going to make a huge deal, but artists are like super behind the idea, which is actually awesome, right? Because people want to get involved and want to contribute, and it's really good to see, especially people.
It shoes you from like sort of like cloak and dagger that can come from being like a pseudo journalist, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not profiting off this, man. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives you a pretty easy out, right? Like if somebody's like, oh, well, no, and they try and want to have some sort of tough negotiation with you about, if I'm like, hey, send me your beats and I'll play them on my podcast. And somebody's like, well, let's write up a contract and do this and that. And I can just be like, well, I'm not making money. It's for charity. I want to help the charity, but you know what? I'm not going to spend an hour going over terms with you. Like this is take it or leave it, like.
Yeah. Have people tried to get contracts from you?
There's been like some sort of like I've had to clarify for some people, like sort of like, like this is like I'm just a guy in my basement trying to like make a community here and raise money for charity. Like I'm not down to do any of that stuff. And if I was, like you'd probably be worse off for it because I'm the guy who's trained in law. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, you fucked with the wrong guy.
Yeah, exactly, right. No, and honestly, I just don't want to go back to doing that law shit. So, but honestly, everyone's been pretty good. Like I think I'd probably say 95% of the people have been amazing. Some people have fairly high expectations and probably need to learn about respectful adult communication, but that's like a very small minority. Like it's
is that in the DMs or is that when
that's in the DMs? No, yeah, that's always after in the DMs. Yeah. But like it's like it's a tiny minority. Like it's much less than I anticipated from rappers because
and you're not naming names. That's adult communication.
No, yeah, yeah. No, we're all adults here, right? Well, I'm trying to be. Yeah,
I would name names. I'm a little gossip, man. Yeah.
Oh, you can see on the. You can see if you look up, you'll see on Instagram. There's some people that are posting like reposting me in their stories. They're like, "Yo, where's this homie at?" Like trying to. There's like people sending threats and stuff. You'll see it if it's out there. Like I'll
take a look.
Yeah, no, I won't name any. I don't want to give them any extra visibility. So.
Yeah, get them. But it sounds like it's been going pretty good. It sounds overwhelming, frankly. It sounds like you've kind of set yourself up for a lot of work just out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, actually, I've been really lucky because it's like not for profit. There's people that are willing to volunteer to help. So I've got people mixing. I've got somebody else conducting interviews.
Uno, right?
Yeah, Uno, my partner Uno over in Vancouver because I can't get there right now. And he's like got a studio. He's really talented producer, really talented rapper.
Yeah, he did the Chappie Go Lucky, who I am friendly with.
Yeah, and he's actually never interviewed him before, like neither had I, but he just stepped up. He's like, yeah, I'll do it, sure. So like I've already, like I said, like, like finding people who know what they're doing. Like he knows artists, he knows like, and in the future, like we want to maybe put on shows, and he knows like how to put on
Yeah.
shows and all that stuff. So I'm trying to team up with people to take the workload off. Maybe have to do less social media stuff, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So that's been helpful that way.
And so tell me about this mixtape. I don't really get it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's no worries. I don't think half the artists don't get it either.
Yeah.
But it's basically like so. I don't know how it works with UVic, but with because they're the same kind. I know community radio and
which community radio station are you, if you're on one?
it's CFRO. It's 100.5 in Vancouver. It's co-op radio in Vancouver.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Okay.
like shut down 2 years ago, but then it reopened. And it's yeah, so like I have to raise money because it's community radio. I think maybe UVic gets funds from students, or I don't know, but both
Yeah,
both
they do fundraising, and it's you pay UVSS fees that goes towards
right. Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's technically a club or whatever, right?
Right, totally. Yeah.
And government funding. College radio is government funded also.
Right. Okay.
Not significantly, it's grants and shit, right?
I'm sure community radio is as well, because they're both they're under the same regulations and stuff in terms of content and stuff. But yeah, so we have to do a bit of fundraising, and like this is a fun way to do it. So basically, we've got probably 15 producers have submitted beats. We've got over 100 beats, and we've got them on this Google Drive, and we send out a spreadsheet. And so basically, they've donated all these beats, which is crazy. And they're like people that have worked with big artists like Switch and Prada West, and people that are like more established. So they've donated all these beats, and then we've reached out to artists, and we've got about 50 rappers who are willing to either hop on the track and do right, and they're gonna hop on the track and do a hook or a verse, and maybe they'll do the whole song, or maybe they're gonna submit their own self-produced song. So basically, we're gonna get about 2 or 3 mixtapes in all once this is all said and done over the next 2 or 3 months, and once those are done, it's all donated by the artists, and we put those up on Spotify as Unsigned BC, and we sell physical copies, hope to raise money. But I think the coolest part is we've got this artist that's goes by the name of Jack Wild, and he's an executive producer on one of the mixtapes. So basically, that means we are giving him like full control over. Okay, you go through and you pick whatever artists you want, and you pick whatever songs, and you can make your own mixtape, and it's going to be his sort of own flavor of things. So I'm really excited for that. I think honestly, probably my best idea that I've had is to get that guy on here to do like because it takes the workload off of us, but also like it's like like produced by Jack Wild as executive producer. It's got his own sort of like unique sort of sound, right?
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Are you concerned about the beats having samples and putting them on Spotify at all?
Yeah. So
that?
Yeah, so me and Uno are like
just do it
for that.
That's my advice for you. I just fucking do it, and I've never gotten pulled. So
yeah, we're just screening for the ones that are like obviously like you can't sample like Otis Redding or whatever.
College dropout kind of.
Yeah. Like there's
Cool.
we've only had to turn away one beat so far because it was just like a slowed down Jay-Z beat or something.
Okay, that's sick. Cool. Yeah, I'll get you a track. I'll do a track.
Yeah, no, I thought I asked you, didn't I? But we're trying to get everybody.
Yeah, I got beats this afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Yeah, because and also if you want to do like a fully like a self-produced, or if you it would be great also if you could get some of these artists that like you said like don't have Instagrams and stuff. Like that would be great if you get some of them involved as well.
My boys would happily send you beats if I message them. Yeah, they're
that would be awesome because I those are the people that I can't really get. Like I don't know that, like I'm new, right? So I don't have a network, so I can only reach people through Instagram. So there's still a lot of people that like I still come across people on Instagram that are like fairly well-known rappers, and I just discover them right now because it's kind of a not a very well connected scene. Maybe it's very divided across regions.
Yeah, even within Victoria, there's a bit of division, I think. Just
definitely, yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, I don't fuck with that sound, I'm done.
Yeah.
I personally haven't experienced that. I've gotten pretty much nothing but love, but I also like operate probably closer to you than other people in that I just say yes and be nice,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I don't do the persona thing. I just want to work when I want to work. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would love to do like I'd love to be Nardwar, but I you know I can't do the persona thing.
Yeah. Um so tell me about how you like you said that you only got into hip hop or new wave hip hop if you will in the last few years. What was the watershed moment there? Like what were you listening to
Yeah.
before?
So like for the longest time it was like like and I'm not saying like I don't like old school stuff. I do like it, but it's not what I'm listening to right now. Like I like classic rock. It's
Yeah.
just not really what I'm listening to at the moment. But so yeah, like I said, no disrespect to Mercules, but I started off with like you know, Gangstar and Biggie Smalls, and then I think it was somewhere
I
around
still
like
listen to Gangsta. That shit.
oh that's tight. That's that was like
Yeah.
the UVic had a hip hop class, and I like did a write up on Gangstar, and like yeah no that was like one of my favorite
Yeah.
groups. But yeah, so I think it was
There's some serious analysis lyrically you can get out of those guys too. Like
oh yeah
what's the name of the Guru, yeah.
yeah
He's a fucking legend.
interesting guy, yeah, really interesting guy. Yeah, I think it was Young Thug maybe that did it for me. I think like Check by Young
Okay,
Thug.
hell yeah.
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 And maybe his like Beautiful Thugger Girls. I really like that. I think
Yeah.
that kind of turned me on to
That's a very
like
poppy record too.
yeah, and that turned
Yeah.
me on to like mainstream hip hop, like stuff that's on the radio now, like in which I would never, as a younger person, never listen to stuff that's like, you know, like I was listening to like Migos and like Drake and stuff for the first time. Yeah, and like
Yeah.
it's and my friend was at law school was telling me like he's like, yo, like I know people will say like, yo, this like Migos is lame or Drake is lame, but man, like it's way easier if you just try and like everything. And I've been trying to follow that. So
That's legit. Yeah. One, two, it's like, you know, that shit's punk. It's punk as fuck. It's just also really popular. That's what
exactly.
like.
Yeah.
Bad and Bougie could have been made in my room based on the fidelity of it. Like, it could have been made in my room. And it
Yeah,
was the number
yeah.
one song in the world. That
Yeah.
fucking rocks. That's never
Yeah.
happened before.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
that's you touched on a really cool thing there that we sort of talked about a bit on our show is sort of how everybody and a lot of rappers have raised this is how everybody is sort of their own home studio and their own home producer. And I'm 29, so like when I was in high school, we played in like bands and nobody really rapped yet because that's kind of a newer thing for BC.
Yeah.
But like nobody had their own home studio. Now it's very normal for people to have their own, be able to do mixing, have a
Really easy
DAW.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
YouTube
spent like
videos, like
$200 on everything. That's it. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, right. And you learn it off like YouTube and stuff, right? It's so easy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like
YouTube
it's this.
slaps. That's what
Yeah,
everyone's like. How do I make beats? I don't know how to make beats. I don't make beats, but I make experimental music on my own. But like, yeah, YouTube's amazing. It's crazy. Yeah,
yeah, and like so there's this whole new generation of artists that are making music from their house. It's like democratized music. This is sort of like what the SoundCloud
yeah,
wave was, I guess, right? And I think that's sort of the realization that's like, holy shit, like I was going through Spotify. It was like sort of Young Thug, and that turned me onto this new music. And then I got Discover on my Spotify, and I think I listened to like 1,000 artists over, you know, like or probably more than that, 1,500 over the year. And just like my Spotify playlist was like 2 songs from each artist. Like so many good artists out there right now, right? Like and that's sort of what got me excited about hip hop today.
yeah. It's incredible. And I think contemporary hip hop. I think it might be changing, but like the post Migos, post Gucci Mane kind of trap world. That music is spontaneous and immediate. You know, you can kind of tell whether or not you want to hear the rest of the song very quickly. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And it's
Which I like, and
also
that's not to say it doesn't have depth, but it's to say that it was likely recorded spontaneously, and with a sense of improvisation and intoxication, often the case. And it's like you could feel that in every quality of this music, and that's I think what is so special about contemporary hip hop.
yeah, that's like some of those rappers. They're like they like those genius videos or whatever. They're like, what the fuck did I say? I don't know what that means. Like, you know, like they were just in the
Yeah,
studio there,
yeah,
leaned out or whatever, right? Like, hopefully the artists I'm working with are not all leaned out all the time, but I mean, they are
yeah,
spontaneous though, that's
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Stick with the weed, everybody.
Yeah,
Everything
exactly.
else, not so good. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I use booze when I make rap music, though. I'm a big drinker when I record.
I
Honestly,
think that's
you
pretty
get better
common. Yeah.
takes. Like 8 beers in, it's like you get better takes. There's more energy. I'm less self-conscious. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I never was a drinker, and so like when I never have gone and done karaoke before in my life, but when I totally know the good takes and the confidence thing because I went out to this little karaoke bar by my place in the middle of my like liquor and Xanax binge, and I just murdered a
When you were
UGK
mixing
song.
liquor and Xanax?
Oh yeah, like
Oh hell yeah.
yeah. Nobody
Oh
should do
man,
that.
that's so
Maybe
bad.
nobody should do that. Yeah, and probably don't use my last name in this episode. But no, nobody should do that. It's
Yeah.
really dangerous. I was in a really bad place. But yeah, like I was out there drinking, taking pills, and I can see how that helps music. I can see how it ruins lives too, but I can see how it helps music, right?
Yeah, that's always an interesting thing I think about is I've been reading this book. It's really stupid, but I'm reading this book called Cannabis and Spirituality. Um, I got it because I thought it was funny, to tell you the truth. Um, but it brings like an interesting question, and they're like, listen, you can get to that headspace of performative or creative or spiritual or whatever you want to call it, headspace using intoxication. They use a different word. They use like a fucking some kind of religious word for
Yeah,
intoxication in this book. But you can get there without this, but it's honestly quicker to use
yeah,
cannabis in the case of
yeah.
this book. And it's like, and then it asked me like, does it actually improve the work, or does it let you get to the end point quicker, or get to actually performing quicker, as opposed to if you were to do it slow or more methodically sober, would it be better and more natural? It just might take more time and effort. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. No, that
Yeah.
that's an interesting discussion. Like I sort of touched on that with my last interview with Dead Poet, a song called Drugs, and saying, yeah, like there's definitely, I mean, weed is probably your best bet. But there's definitely, yeah, sort of like these sort of positive sides too. I haven't actually heard it expressed that way before in terms of uh, uh, speeding you up to the end point. But yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a really interesting discussion because something that you want to not take lightly because of if you look at all the people that have had not only overdosed but at least had a lot of difficult times with drugs, and a lot of it comes down to sipping lean in the studio with your friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever done lean? I haven't done lean.
No, no, like because it's hard. It's like if you get it up here,
I
apparently
don't think
it's
it's
like
widely available in Canada. Yeah.
yeah, like I've
I don't know though.
no, I've met some people that I've heard that they can get it, but me myself, I'm like your traditional white collar drug kind of guy, so like pills and stuff.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I abused Adderall quite a bit as a teenager, and I do not have ADD. So
Oh yeah,
that
that's
was
like
a good time.
it's a UVic rite of passage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's pretty sweet. That stuff's pretty sweet, honestly. But it fucks with your ego. I don't like that part about it. Uppers.
It's
Makes
bad for
you
your emotions
think that
too.
you're the
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when
Yeah.
you stop taking it, it's you're like, wow, I'm not the shit. Holy.
Yeah, I had real withdrawal symptoms from stopping taking Adderall, which is
Yeah.
wild. Like to be 16 and you know white middle class and or whatever class I am. I don't really know, but
Yeah. Yeah.
and to be like, oh shit, like I feel like I have spiders in my arms. I'm such a fucking idiot. What have I
Yeah.
done?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
a bit of a wake up call for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Cool. Yeah. So, do you have you were asking me like what the goal of my podcast is? Do you have like a formal? I guess you want to like index, which I think is a great term. But like going forward, do you want to talk to like bigger artists? Like not to knock anybody that you've talked to, but like do you want to like go up and up and up, or do you want to kind of stick with spotlighting people?
Yeah, so that's a great question because that's sort of why I asked. Because right now we're doing a good job of indexing, and we're going to continue doing that, and we're doing a good job of bringing attention to smaller artists. And it's kind of like we can keep doing this, and sort of the goal was, like I said, we want to provide sort of like a database and an index for not only artists but also service providers, and then also maybe a sense of community and hopefully people will maybe collaborate. But yeah, so in terms of smaller or bigger artists, I know the point of the show is to give exposure to smaller artists. And I was talking to this with actually a few different people. So like bringing on bigger artists when they maybe come through, once that's allowed, it brings more exposure to the smaller artists. So, but
Also
me and
brings more
Uno,
exposure to the show. Yeah. Okay.
exactly, yeah. So me and Uno have definitely talked about doing things in a manner that we're not going to give preferential treatment to anybody who is, say somebody comes through and they've got 1 million followers. Like if I've got somebody booked already that's got 600 followers, like that person's got precedence. Like we're not going to give special treatment, but we are going to try and get bigger names just for the sake of more exposure for our sort of
Yeah.
local community.
And with bigger names, like frankly, there's more information on a given person out there, so you can do a better interview. The more well-known people that I've interviewed have been easier to interview, A, because they're experienced, and B, because I can Google the shit out of them, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
And know what, like, you know, I interviewed this guy. I guess, yeah, I'm talking about myself. Sorry. But I interviewed this guy, JG Throwell. He's one of the first guys I got. I just messaged him on Facebook, and he's pretty famous, honestly. Like he did the score to the show Archer and Venture Brothers.
Oh, crazy.
And he's like a legendary punk guy from the 80s, basically. Yeah, he was sweet and easy to talk to, and I was nervous as shit, and he was cool as fuck. And then I've talked to people I know that I'm friends with, and they're harder to talk. They're harder to get like a decent conversation out of. Weirdly.
Yeah. Well, I think.
And you would think it would be the other way around.
Well, yeah, I think also another thing I want to mention about sort of the purpose of our show is one thing I noticed really early on is I was a lot of people's first interview. And by the end of the interview, like they had already improved and people came back for second interviews actually to redo and were better the second time. So like it's a skill that you learn sort of like giving an interview. So we're one thing we're trying to do is actually develop these kids with their, different skills that they're going to need when they actually go out and do like a bigger, like a real podcast or whatever. So that's one thing we're trying to do. But yeah, like you were
and you'll
saying,
get better too as that goes on, right?
Yeah, and but like and it's like when I did my first one, I was terrified. I'm still terrified, but like you were saying though, like if somebody has got something you can Google about them or whatever, like it's not only do they have the experience of having done 1,000 interviews, but like you can really dig into like, oh, you said this or that. Whereas there's not a lot to look up on in terms of BC guys. So we're trying to get that going, right? We're trying to get a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, I think that's important too. That's like meta indexing, even, right? It's like
exactly creating the content.
Because in this day and age, you hear an artist you like, and you're like, I want to know. You generally want to know more about them as a person. Like we live in an age where the art and the artist are, especially in hip hop, like not too separated, right?
Yeah, definitely. With the social media thing, I mean, it's nothing. Yeah, it's different.
Like
yeah,
6ix9ine, right? Like that. Nobody would listen to 6ix9ine's music if he wasn't like the sort of clown prince of Instagram, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
and that's interesting. Like, yeah, because this can help by indexing these younger artists that don't necessarily have a handle, or not necessarily younger, but newer, up and coming, if you will. You can. I lost my train of thought. Damn, dude.
No, we're like, we're kind of trying to like we're creating content that you can actually look up, right? Like if you want to look up an artist and there's really nothing to look up, well, we're actually going to expand to like song reviews eventually here, and actually have them written like on a website. Hopefully, that's sort of the next step, maybe. So yeah, like you're saying, like not only
that's a lot more work, weirdly, I think.
Yeah. No,
that could be a lot more work. Yeah.
I on the low I've been editing essays for UVic students and UBC students, and I have a website. But the thing is, everybody wants you to write their whole essay. Everybody's so lazy.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about picking that up as a gig. I was reading some David Foster Wallace, which is a pretentious ass thing to say, but I wasn't. he did that. He like forged people's essays for them, and he was like, dude, it was dope. And I'm a pretty good essay, like I get A's and shit, and I'm like, fuck it.
Okay,
I could do first year English essays for people. I shouldn't say this is attached to my name. If I ever did do it, my dad would.
UVic, we're just joking around, UVic, but yeah, we'll talk after.
yeah, word. Yeah, what was I? Oh yeah. So younger artists, right? And they don't necessarily have a handle on like the aesthetics of things, and aesthetics are quite important in 2020, 21, I guess now. Um, but if instead of aesthetics, which they might not have to offer, and not saying that they're not like good looking, but I mean like having a good flashy Instagram that people want to follow
Yeah.
and look at,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, or album art or whatever the fuck it is. But there's strength in the music by providing them a backstory. You are creating that aesthetic for them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's hopefully we can get there. I mean, maybe that is the goal. I'm not sure, but that's definitely hopefully a step that we want to take. And I mean, hopefully we can grow BC hip hop through one of these means and one of these avenues that we're taking. And maybe it is that people need a little more, a little more context when they find artists. Maybe they need maybe there just isn't the avenues, like I don't know, but yeah, no, that's definitely what we're trying to go for. And it's a lot of work, so I really appreciate all the volunteer help from not only Uno. There's actually probably 5 or 6 more guys as well, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, I was like, this man got a team quick. You're like the fucking Avengers or something. Like it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, well, people
I
like
don't have a team, man. It's just me.
yeah, I think it's because it's like super beneficial. Maybe not now, but maybe if we grow a bit, like to be a part of the team, I hope that it'll maybe be like, oh, you're like Uno from Unsigned. Like maybe like that'll be like a thing. Maybe that'll be like, oh, I want to get beats from you. Like, so I'm hoping that it pays off for the volunteers in the long run.
It could. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and regardless, we're all having fun and everybody likes it. So
Yeah. Are you worried about so because of the thesis statement we're at least trying to shape out here? Do you have concerns that you're going to run out of steam? Are you someone who runs out of steam on shit? Like, because I certainly am. I have a history of unfinished projects for sure.
yeah, like what I'm most worried about is like I'm gonna have to like get a job one day. But yeah, like we're gonna eventually run out of artists to do, and then
No
I
way.
guess
That's not
yeah.
because you're going to want to stop talking to them. That's more likely to happen, I think.
Okay, so basically what happens is somebody says something that upsets me every 5 days or so, and then I just say, Uno, I'm taking 2 days off. You're in charge of the account.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I have
So
a similar thing with the podcast. Like a friend. I did an interview with a friend of mine, and then he decided that we didn't want to publish it because it was just us being buddies. And
yeah,
the way that he said no hurt my feelings. It made me not want to do
yeah.
it. But then I talked to my brother about it, and he told me I was being a pussy, and it all worked out. But yeah,
Oh, I just
sorry,
get
because
to
I
go
have
off
that
and
knee jerk want to be like to if I get rejected, I just want to fucking scorch a person. But I am good enough to go. All right, it's all good. You know.
yeah, no, I'm definitely working. We're working on that at therapy right now. We're gonna go and try and avoid the scorched earth technique lately. But it does happen from time to time. People will say some really rude things, but I'm really glad that like I can just be like, yo, Uno, this guy's being a dick.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
deal with it because it's less personal, I guess, if I like hand it off or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
gives the illusion of, or not even necessarily illusion, but like the ability to go, okay, this is professional.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so like I'm trying.
Temporary HR department.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm trying more and more not to be like, hey man, like fuck
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So I try to be a little more professional with because
In this
uh
podcast world too, you can't be a dick. You got to just keep grinding. I think it's like it's a very generous platform that is very mockable. That's what I think about it. You know.
yeah. Actually, honestly, what I'm most worried about is uh not running out of steam or dealing with the difficult people because it is the biggest challenge right now is dealing with people that hurt your feelings. But my biggest issue is like people that have issues with each other, like the artists that have issues with each other. That's something that I'm definitely kind of weary of.
Have you come across that?
Yeah, like quite a bit. Like surprisingly, like I'd have artists like come in back to back and not even know, and then realize that they've like done diss tracks on each other and shit.
Oh shit! Damn. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've
yeah,
I've had to mitigate a bit of that with working with people that don't fuck with each other or don't fuck with each other anymore. Um, and I'm not in a podcast context, but in a musical context. And I don't know. I just try. I just talk about it. That's kind of what I do. I don't know if that's the right thing, but I'm like, hey, yeah, you guys have fucking a problem with each other. Like, let me get in the middle of it and try to at least justify both of you. Find some common ground. I hate that
Yeah.
shit. I hate that shit in
Yeah.
creativity, man. It sucks. It sucks. Like unless it's
Same.
legit. Like if you like had sex with somebody's girlfriend or something, like or like
Yeah. Then it's not a
stole
creativity
or
thing,
something like that.
right? Then it's like,
No,
yeah.
that's just bad. But if it's a creativity thing, I'm always just like, but I also can also respect the like kind of like where let's say you work together and somebody didn't fuck with what you did with their song or something. I can respect
Yeah.
being like, no, I don't like that. Don't put it out. And then let's say somebody
Yeah.
does put it out or something. This is getting too specific, but it's like I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see how that could kind of piss you off, but it's also like, fuck it, just make another song. I don't know.
Yeah, so like my thing is like art, like what I'm not doing is like what I'm doing is like kind of personal, but art is so personal. When people put their songs out there, it's so personal. And I know like a lot of rappers will like I don't know what their deal is with each other, but they'll just diss each other and they'll say like your song's trash or whatever it is. And
Yeah. Yeah.
like like shit, man. Like I just want everybody to get along. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to get
Same.
involved in that. Like
Yeah.
like it's like it's tough. Like honestly, like all like I gotta stop doing it, but like people will be like this song's trash like to somebody that I've interviewed. I'll be like, hey man, fuck you, like I'll come to your fucking house. Like
Yeah.
I'll get super defensive over these artists because people put a lot of work into their stuff and they put their own personal experiences and stuff, and it's like, man, it's I do not appreciate people taking shots at these artists.
Yeah, especially when they don't have a significant amount of clout. I'm just kind of like, man, they're still learning. Like, I've
Oh
always had the
exactly.
philosophy. I've always had the philosophy of practicing in public. You know, um, and if it's shit, I whatever. Then the next one will be better. Deal with it. And it's only up to me. I only care if I think it's shit. I've gotten to that point now too, where it's like I don't care what anyone else thinks. I just do it
Yeah.
for me. Yeah. But that is an interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting thing that you'll probably see this the more you talk to people, particularly in hip hop. But actually, maybe not even particularly in hip hop, but where people have different degrees of how much they value their art, if you will. Um, where it's like I subscribe to the philosophy of all my ideas are equal, some just take more time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like this podcast is equal to my Philip Morris music, but Philip Morris takes more time.
Right.
But I could spend more time on this. But like it's all equal. And I treat it where like my shit isn't precious the second it's out in public. It's precious when I'm working on it, but the second it's out in the world, I'm not precious about my art or whatever, right?
Right.
But a
But
lot of
your
people are
art's
very precious about their shit. Very
but
precious about their shit.
is your Philip Morris stuff that's not a little more personal to you than your podcast? No, I mean that's like unless it's not like if you're writing a really serious song, right? That's like if somebody says trash about like I can see that would fucking hurt.
I don't care anymore,
Oh,
honestly.
go that's honestly, and that's what's blown my mind about some of these artists. Like one of these guys who's like Eli 406. He's like 19, and he's like, "Yo, man, like I know that guy's being a dick, and like but he probably just shouldn't engage." I'm like, "What the? How old are you, man?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's like a artist thing. I guess you learn pretty early to sort of toughen up, I guess, right?
Yeah, there's some guy gave me an advice when I started playing in bands and stuff. I also made rap music, but I was more successful and continue. I mean, yeah, that's just more successful. The band stuff I've done, but is like some older guy basically gave me the advice right away where he's like, man, young people in the music scene are competitive as shit and they're petty, and just try to avoid that as much as possible. And I did it. I ignored that advice for a very long time. And then over time, it just like it was a huge waste of energy when I could have just been making actual tunes. You
Oh,
know?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. What the hell? Just make tunes. Fuck it. And as we talked about, you
exactly.
can do it in your home studio. No one even needs to know you're doing it.
Oh, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't really have the like we don't have like we're not Toronto, like we don't have gang, well we do have gangs, but like they're not really affiliated so much with the music. Like there's not like there's street beefs that are going into the music. These are just ego beefs.
I'm not aware of any of that in BC. No. Like,
No, like it's literally just ego. It's pettiness and ego when people are
yeah.
generally rude to each other that are artists, right? Like
Yeah. And ego is always the thing that concerns me in general. And I like ego. Like like Kanye. Like I love that shit. I love how fucking like
yeah,
aggressively egotistical one could perceive him as. Um,
wouldn't love to live with them, but I mean
I don't know if I'd love to live with him either, but I
yeah.
certainly would like to work with him. That would be
Yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, for
Um,
intervals for sure.
yeah, yeah. But like I like, yeah, my buddy James Joyce 1307, who I think you should talk to. He's really cool, but
Okay.
he's got a pretty big ego, but it's a good one. But it's hard to
Okay.
even kind of put it into words. You know,
Right. Yeah.
he's just way smarter than you would think.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and got to figure it out. But he's interested in making big money, right? I'm not. I don't. I want a normal job. I don't want to make money off music.
Yeah.
I'm the
That's a
opposite
good
of you.
idea.
I'm the opposite of you. I've given up on my art dreams, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a fucking teacher or some shit. You
No,
know?
I think we're on the same track there. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, I want that job that's like, maybe 9 to 5, maybe like 9 to 3, and like,
Fucking sick.
good hours. And I don't want that lawyer. I don't need that pay, and I don't need the cloud of like being a star. Something nice and comfy, please.
This is a good. I think that there's a huge future in this medium, though, um, because it's like music. A lot of the music I listen to is like experimental ambient music, right? And I think podcasts kind of fill that void, but it's more productive, and it can be like a friend simulator, and it can be information, and you could dig into anything you want. But it really works as a. It's like an excellent like background noise, frankly. And I think that people are going to be looking for more and more of that, especially as we get more and more glued to the multitasking of having technology everywhere, especially post COVID. I think, and I don't think that shit's going to get back to normal pretty quick. I think we're still going to be kind of stuck in this sort of pseudo digital purgatory, and that something like podcasting, I think, can help kind of fill that void. I think it's a
Yeah.
worthwhile content to create, right?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of whether you're looking for entertainment or education or just some noise so that you don't feel like so lonely while you're cleaning, right? Like it's definitely something that, and I'm like a fan of like radio drama. Like I like
Okay.
the old school like Gunsmoke and stuff. So I
Okay.
mean, there's
That's
even
cool.
that, right? Yeah, yeah. So like it's and that honestly, in my opinion, that side of the podcasting hasn't been tapped into as much as it could be. The whole with the sound effects and like doing the horse
Yeah,
hooves and all.
not in North America or outside of the UK and Japan, I guess. Like currently,
Oh
like
yeah,
no,
yeah.
I know that shit's huge in Japan. That
And I know
those
the
things.
BBC also does their own ones, right? And they've been doing
Yeah,
them for a while. Yeah.
I gotta be honest. I hate that shit. I don't like it.
Oh, I love it.
I'm a
I'm just
movie.
weird
I
like
want to
that.
watch a movie, dude. I don't know. I've tried. What's the really popular one? It's Welcome to Night Vale. Is that what it's called? Have you
Oh
heard of it?
yeah, yeah. No, I haven't actually listened to any new ones. I've only I don't know, man. It was a weird stoner thing that I went through.
Okay. Yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tight. So you were just like, were you like finding like archives of like old like radio dramas and shit?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can go to like just like archive.org or whatever, and like I'd listen to one like yeah, Gunsmoke was one of my favorites because I love Western movies.
Okay.
I love all that stuff. There's ones called like Suspense. Really good story called Linegan versus the Ants. If you ever get the chance, definitely check that out. It's this dude who goes to the rainforest and then he has a
Write
little
it down.
ranch and he gets it basically his ranch gets overrun by these like those giant fucking nasty ants that you see with like the pincer things.
Yeah, yeah.
But the way it's done, like it's just take a nice big rip, get nice and stoned, lie in bed, and turn that thing on. Great.
Okay.
Like yeah. No, I highly recommend it. It's like some good stuff that you probably wouldn't come across today because it's a little people like to have like the TV go on with the cell phone and all that stuff. This is just
Yeah.
audio, so.
Yeah, I've been getting into unfortunately GTA Online and have been turning off the radio in GTA and just listening to podcasts. I did that last night while I listened to your show.
Oh, tight. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really sort of missed out on the video game train to be honest with you. Like
That's good. I got back into it during COVID, unfortunately. Yeah.
it's a good way to kill time though. Like I remember I tried to pull out Call of Duty again and like I just like got destroyed and
Yeah,
just
no,
like yeah.
I can't do the level that people are at in first person shooters now, man. It's fucked. I can't handle that.
That's the
Yeah.
thing, man. Everyone's been practicing for the last like 6 years. I wasn't
Yeah, we
playing.
missed it, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're 29, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're born in 90 or 91?
91. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you're not that much older than me. That's cool.
Yeah,
Um,
we're university age.
yes, yeah, exactly. But you're qualified to be a lawyer though. That's sick. That's cool.
Well, I was, but actually, since I tried to switch careers, there's
You
and
need to
I
practice X amount every year, right?
yeah, and you also have to not declare bankruptcy, which I did because
Oh shit. Okay.
yeah. So I actually this is actually kind of cool. In like a kind of weird way. So I actually didn't have government loans. I just had private student loans, and they're all through the Bank of Nova Scotia. Shout out to the Bank of Nova Scotia for funding my life for a few years. Um, and basically, I racked up 150 grand debt.
Ooh.
And yeah, right, expensive to live in Vancouver and pay tuition and all that. And
Yeah, man. Jesus.
it's killer. And then I tried to switch careers, come back to Vancouver or Victoria, can't get a job, can't get an interview. COVID hits. I go see a financial advisor, and she's like, "Yo, like they gave you this loan with no collateral, hey?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like," and she's like, "You have no assets." I'm like, "No," and she's like, "You need to declare bankruptcy." So basically, what happens is like, my credit's bad, but I'm out. I just don't have to pay them back. It's honestly pretty great. But the
Yeah.
only the downside is I can't practice as a lawyer because they think that I'm more likely to commit fraud, which fair
Because
enough.
you. So could you practice as a lawyer in the future if you
In the future, yeah, yeah.
bankruptcy? It 5 years. Is that what it is?
I'm not actually sure. It's like a discretionary thing from the law
Given law
society.
firm or whatever. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So and it's also like it's the same as like if I like oh, drunk driving is not so bad. That's well, it's awful, but like in terms of like the legal world of like because lawyers do it, they don't look as badly on it.
Right.
But like things like financial crimes, bankruptcy, drugs, they
Probably
don't like.
depends on what kind of law you're practicing too, right?
Yeah, well,
Because if you're
they like
practicing criminal law, right, you probably wouldn't want to get caught drunk driving, right?
yeah, well, it happens, and lawyers will show up like this the next day as like the person
Defendant of
being
a drunk driver.
exactly, yeah, which is probably takes some balls to do, but um,
Ugh.
no, like it's interesting world. I could definitely talk about the law world, but it's interesting, and
I'm
the
very interested in it, man. Sincerely. Yeah.
yeah, it's I can tell you like the one of the first things I noticed is that when I knew that I like kind of sealed the deal for like, okay, I've been here for 3 months and I probably won't last the year is we did this presentation and it kind of went over the statistics and it was like, okay, so like lawyers are 6 times more likely than non-lawyers to commit suicide.
Okay.
Lawyers in BC have 39% of lawyers in BC have self-reported substance abuse problems, and this is the divorce rate, and I'm like yeah, like holy shit, like I could, and then 3 months in, I'm like I can fucking tell why, like it's kind of a job that you take home with you, uh,
Yeah, no
and
doubt.
yeah, and it's very sort of high pressure, and yeah,
And
it's the people.
you're not dealing with like some boring shit like commercial and was it wills in the States, right?
Yeah, yeah. So like it's big stuff. Like
That
I
can
did
get
some
intense, I'm sure.
yeah, like one of the things like there's crazy stuff that happened that like you like I can't really talk about it, but like there's stuff that you
Yeah.
would not believe, like instances where like holy fuck, I can't believe that somebody would do that to another person to inherit an estate
Oh,
or that kind of thing.
yeah.
And or I'd be like working
And
on
they're likely family or something, right? Too.
yeah,
So
like lots of really crazy family disputes and uh I did like a bit of family law. I did a bit of real estate too, so like working on like big mall developments and like I'm just like brand new and they just like hand me this big file and they're like, "Hey, can you do this and that?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about." And so you
yeah.
have to like learn it on the job and it has to be done really well and yeah, it wasn't for me. But the people that do it generally are like type A extroverts. Introverts do
No,
well,
definitely.
but it's mostly extroverts. They're generally type A, really resilient and really tolerant to stress. And generally like it's a very also I will say just about the community. It's a very left leaning community more than you'd think because you think like rich lawyers, old white
Yeah,
guys.
I would think that it would be people who would say that they were left, but were more like, Joe Biden before this election or whatever.
Yeah, so like there's like a division. You might actually find this pretty interesting. The older lawyers, like the old guys that are kind of retiring right now, most of them came kind of from old money, because if you look at like law
Okay.
school graduation pictures, like say like class of 72, it's all dudes, it's all white dudes. Like when I went to law school, it was 52% women. I was like the only like one of the only like two straight white dudes in my class. Like it was not like your what you think like your conservative profession would be. So like
Yeah.
it's so the older folks, they kind of come from old money. Lots of them have like a house in Whistler or something. But
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
people that
Yeah.
are like 50 and under, they're still paying off their student loans. Like they're like either have just
Damn.
bought their first apartment. Like one of my partners, one of the partners that was my boss, 10 years in, they just bought their first 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in Richmond. My other boss lived out in White Rock and had to commute in every day. Like, and these are the younger guys. So like the younger folks, they aren't that sort of old money. They're come from a lot more diverse backgrounds. I think maybe it has something to do with the change in university admissions. Like they
Yeah. I
stopped just
think
being like,
that's
you
probably
know,
true.
like include your picture, make sure you're a white guy or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I went to school, like, and the people that I was working with when I worked that were like 50 and under, it was like a really diverse crowd. Like, um,
I think a lot of
uh,
people probably at your age bracket and my age bracket would be motivated by social justice to become a lawyer as well.
exactly. And even the people, honestly, that were motivated by money and self interest, like, honestly, I'm doing this out of like a social responsibility, and I'm very motivated by social justice. But I was mostly interested in getting a steady paycheck. And I know a lot of people that are working as lawyers, but they
When whether
still
you
are.
admit it or not, that's definitely an incentive. Like
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And
food on the
but
fucking table, man.
yeah, exactly. But they're still very like left leaning folks, and that's I think probably the most surprising thing I took from it is that
Yeah, that
um
surprises the shit out of me, honestly.
yeah, like
Yeah.
honestly anybody who's like not like under the boomer age, like Gen X and millennials, they're all I
Gen
think
X is
also
underrated, man. Generally
yeah,
speaking, Gen
right,
X is mad
right.
underrated.
They're good. They're the it must have been hard to be between, the millennials and the boomers,
Yeah, you probably had to change your mind a lot to be a Gen Xer.
right? Yeah, yeah. So like those groups, like I guess it's a follows the general trend of age, as well as the general trend of different more diverse groups of people being led into university. But
Yeah,
yeah, that was
that's
sort
cool,
of a
man.
really cool thing I learned. Yeah, very sort of left leaning, socially aware. They do pro bono free,
Do you
lots
think
of.
that's BC? That might be more specific to like a BC than it would be elsewhere, or would you say that that's across the like at least in the West, if you will? That's in. I don't know if you can see my video. It's in quotation marks, the West, but
Yeah.
uh, or do you think like that's BC specifically, or from
Yeah,
what you
so
understand?
so I know that places like Toronto and New York like have a different culture in terms of work-life balance and just generally attitudes. Like you will have people that are solely motivated by becoming the best lawyer. They want to go to New York. They want to go to Toronto.
Right.
You still have the same sort of people you have out here in those places, but you are, yeah, no, you definitely, this is definitely on the west coast of Canada. You're most likely to have that sort of very socially responsible younger group of lawyers for sure.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I know. And then if you went out to New York, you are going to find some suits or whatever, right? Some people
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
pretty hardcore.
That's neat, man. That's interesting. Yeah, we're pretty socially responsible, if that's the right term, whatever culture in Victoria specifically. It's pretty wild, honestly. You're pretty hard pressed
Yeah,
to find like. I mean, I do find it like like we draw a lot of attention when there is someone that is in the antithesis that, but it's such a minuscule minority from my experience.
yeah. I think is the suburbs aren't like as good, but like definitely
Yeah, I'm
Victoria
like
and
on
New
the
Vic.
outskirts of Oak Bay, and yeah, there's definitely like definitely waspy vibes, like
Yeah,
get out kind of vibes,
yeah, yeah. Yes, but like and downtown Victoria and UVic area is great, and Vancouver blew my mind moving there for 4 or 5 years. Just seeing like I got to eat at restaurants from every fucking country. You'd go into a
Yeah.
restaurant, somebody be
Dude,
speaking
it's such a
German.
good
Like
eating city. It's fucked. It's crazy.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like
I'm always
I love that.
floored walking around downtown being like, I could eat at any of these damn places, man.
right? Like, and you're like, oh yeah, multiculturalism or whatever, and you're like, no man, this is some good fucking multiculturalism.
Yeah.
That is the benefits right there. Not only like the here's your like your put it like fucking right there. You can't deny like we are benefiting from having immigrants coming in and open up these restaurants. Like I feel like you should take every sort of right wing person down and be like, yo man, try this food. You know, like try this food and tell me you
Oh
don't
yeah,
want to
for
have more
sure. Yeah.
immigration, right?
Yeah.
It made me
I
miss
always think
sort of
that
like
too.
that.
Like, if you were to boil things down to specifics, like most people agree on everything.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, when you start getting too overarching, too broad, too globally minded, but when you really specify shit, it's like, yeah, like, do you think anyone should be left to die on the street? No, of course not.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you get into specifics, or I guess that's the opposite of what I was saying. But then you get into these grand ways in which you can deal with it or whatever. And that's when
Yeah.
people start arguing. But the fundamental values, I think most people. I don't even. Is that even true though? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think well, certain people are definitely less motivated by empathy, but everybody generally probably
Yeah.
falls mostly on this. Like certain people make different decisions based on their levels of empathy and self-interest, but I think generally, yeah, you're right. Like most people do want to be good and want to like agree
Yeah,
on that, right?
I think so. Yeah. Although then you get caught up in the fucking rat race, and I think that can like distort your worldview because you like, yeah, definitely like living in Victoria and stuff. It's definitely like an echo chamber that can occasionally be kind of exhausting. But yeah, like, if you were working in something more specific, like if you were like a finance world and stuff, the issues that you're confronted with would probably distort your empathy, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, like I think like a good example is like I was actually talking to somebody about this. Somebody I know became like a police officer, and like they were saying that the their sort of their views and their empathy for people who are in like difficult situations has already been changed by uh, you know the sort of being
Being a police
repeat
officer.
yeah
Yeah.
being repeatedly put into these certain situations, right? Like so yeah, for sure. Like it depends on sort of like what microcosm of society that you exist in.
I would love to interview a police officer. That'd be interesting. I've never talked to a police
Yeah.
officer before, like outside of traffic stops and shit. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I I've been like handcuffed a couple times.
Oh
One
yeah.
time like one time in front of my parents, and but it was just for weed every time. But generally they were all like
Yeah.
really nice because like I'm just like a like your middle class white kid with some weed, so they're not gonna give me any trouble, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
know,
And
I can't.
yeah. Well, as you said, you're an introverted man. I imagine that you're like, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm like shit. Sorry, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna try and like be the dominant one in that situation there for sure.
Yeah. Cool. The lawyer shit's cool. That's interesting, man. I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
Do you
the
think there's
school is
any
fun
other
too.
profession though that if you were to go to take a degree in, let's say, Vancouver Island or even Vancouver, do you think there's any school, like what do you call it? Not school, but like faculty or whatever, that would not be predominantly um left wing, if you will, or liberal. Not liberal, that's the wrong word. Left wing.
Yeah, maybe what's it called?
Business?
So yeah, solder and what's the UVic one called?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, UVic business, whatever it's called. Those are the two places that I would find it probably.
Yeah. I have
But
a
it's
bunch of
still
buddies that are in business though, and they're not fucking, they
no,
don't
yeah. I
give
was I
a
was
shit.
gonna say it's still gonna be a massively small minority, but it's probably that's where you'd find them if you were to look.
Yeah, I was really bummed out when I first started my education that there wasn't some shithead kid in like a suit or something that was always like, actually, or whatever. I was really hoping for that Ben Shapiro-esque pot stirrer
Yeah,
just to keep
yeah.
me entertained. Nah, there was none of that. I was honestly so upset. That's what
There
I
was
was.
some
I
of that for
expected there
me.
to be one kid. Nothing. It's the problem with
Yeah.
fucking studying literature, man. These kids don't
you
want to read Hemingway, man.
you guys missed out on like the back push against political correctness that happened before Donald Trump. Like people
Oh
would be
yeah,
like, oh man, gender studies, oh man,
yeah.
like like that was going on when
I
I was
experienced
there.
that in the real world, but in the academy, that would have been certainly interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, even back then, like it was different. Like people would be like, "Oh man, gender studies. Like, what? Oh, what are you gonna do with gender studies?" But now at UVic, people are like, "Yeah, you should learn about gender." It's like I
Yeah.
took law gender, like what, or gender and law or whatever. Like it's good stuff to know.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't get made fun of as much now.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder too. Yeah, that's funny, man. Yeah. I feel like it's exhausting to be in extreme on either side of that too. Like, people were really intense about it 4 or 5, 6 years ago, but I think people burn out on uh, being the person to raise their hand and like, you know,
Oh yeah,
be
yeah,
either super anti PC or extra PC. I feel like
yeah.
that's something that you can't really sustain. It's also a very young thing to do. You get into your like mid-20s and stuff, and I think it's just like I'm just gonna
Conflict
think it,
sucks.
or I'm gonna
Yeah.
put it in my fucking essay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my
Who
next
wants
short.
conflict now, right? Like you're
Yeah.
in your 20s, like fuck, man, I don't need that extra stress.
No, I don't fuck with any of that.
Yeah,
I just want people to be nice.
yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
You're getting old too. Yeah,
Yeah. Cool. All right. This has been a good chat, man. I think we can call it
yeah,
here.
man. Yeah, that's been great, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll stop recording. Thanks for coming. Unsigned BC. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music. You got it on Apple and everything.
Everywhere, it's everywhere.
Everywhere. Very good.
Dieter or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
I don't know
I'm
what.
on there too, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Unsigned BC. Most recent episodes with Chappie Go Lucky, who's an interesting cat. Highly recommend. Give it a
Check
listen.
it out. Check it out.
Yeah, and you can listen to your radio show Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on
It's 100.5 FM, and if you are
in
in,
Vancouver.
yeah, so if you're like in the UVic area, if you're in Esquimalt, Victoria, you can still catch it. It's not as clear, but it's still good, and you're still gonna hear me on the radio, which I think is really cool.
Cool, yeah. And I'm sure you can find it on the internet.
The
if you
internet,
look it up.
yeah, yeah, but it's analog is so cool. So
Yeah, hell yeah.
yeah,
Driving, man. That's how you listen to the radio.
yeah. No, I go and sit in my car in my driveway, and underneath the carport, so that I'm not on the road for whatever reason. No, I won't say, but yeah.
Yeah. I think I know.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Thanks, man.
All right, man. That was awesome.